Jim, I don't like this.
Neither do I. So be it.
Star Wars or Star Trek? Which is better? Today I'll debate the revered IP in two categories, plot and longevity, and render a verdict. In a previous video, I assessed them in two other categories, character development and world building. Link in the description. I recommend watching that video before watching this video. Note, I eliminated the products of Kathleen Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, and Alex Kurtzman from my consideration.
I don't mind if things get sloppy.
So, full ahead maximum warp, or lock in the auxiliary power as I once again contemplate the GOAT in sci-fi entertainment. Welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. The third category for consideration is plot, and its analysis is fraught with challenges due to Star Trek's diverse series and primary platform television. Every episode had a plot. Every series had through lines. Many series had climaxes. Several films were produced. How can such volume be fairly assessed for plot? I'll refer to a simple diagram that begins with exposition and ends with resolution. And I'll weigh an amalgamation of Star Trek episodes against a typical Star Wars film. First, Star Trek. The exposition usually introduced a new planet, civilization, phenomenon, and/or villain. Quickly, the conflict arose and challenged at least one main character, and/or threatened the ship. Away teams, eccentric delegations, impending hostilities, and space oddities were common stratagems. The three probable courses of action: investigation, negotiation, or escape. Often, the conflict preceded the exposition to tease the episode. In other words, the opening scene dangled the hook to catch viewers. The conflict's escalation was the rising action: an away team trapped, an uncooperative visitor, two groups on the brink of war, a decaying star, a disembodied entity. The devices oft repeated became tropes. You're smiling because you recognize the truth in my breakdown. The climax was the conflict's zenith, a test of wills, intellect, or problem solving. It always helped to define at least one main character. Science fiction was a popular solution. Recalibrate this, reroute that. But altruism and hornswaggling and altruistic hornswaggling weren't far behind. For the right reasons, every main character misled other characters and by extension spectators many times. Misled might be too strong. The protagonists regularly kept quiet about their plans as pressure mounted. Viewers experienced a combination of nervousness, excitement, and perplexity as the climax approached. The show challenged you to think 2 steps ahead, to solve a problem, to anticipate or predict results. These observations aren't criticism. The stories were excellent, but they followed a pattern. Finally, the main characters reflected on schemes employed and lessons learned prior to the closing credits. Here's an example of all I've just covered. I rolled dice for season and episode. The outcome was episode 5 of season 2, The Apple. An away team led by Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock arrives on
The unexplored Gamma Trianguli 6.
Conflict. Within minutes, red shirts go down. Exposition. Spock reports a mysterious power source nearby. Scotty in the Enterprise identifies a drain on all systems. Rising action. Killer flowers, exploding rocks, lightning strikes, and naive hosts. Kirk demands the old beam-me-up Scotty routine, but the visitors are stranded. They encounter natives who worship a local deity named Val. Exposition. The natives' leader, Akuta, leads Kirk to a snake temple, source of the power drain. Val provides an environment like the Garden of Eden. The natives don't age, but they're forbidden from intimacy and children. Spock and McCoy debate personal freedom versus immortality, the episode's theme. Climax. Kirk blocks offerings to Val and orders a phaser strike on the temple. Resolution. The bombardment frees the Enterprise, and Kirk lectures the natives about the benefits of free will. Spock compares the away team's actions to the corruption of Adam and Eve in the Book of Genesis. I won't waste your time by interpreting the symbolism and allegory. Both are obvious. In the installment, you see Star Trek's strengths and weaknesses. Away team stranded, check. Ship trapped, check. Allegory, check. Unspoken sci-fi solution implemented at the last possible moment, Check. Character development for Kirk, Spock, and McCoy? Check. Hundreds of episodes just like The Apple. Star Trek was written for adults but could be enjoyed by youngsters, while Star Wars was written for adolescents but could be enjoyed by ages 5 and up. Star Trek was more scientific and allegorical, and therefore more mature. Let's go to Star Wars. 5 of 6 opening scenes were both expository and action-packed. Return of the Jedi was the exception. Its opening scene was only expository. Like Star Trek, Star Wars immediately presented conflicts. Missing plans, an Imperial probe, rescue missions, attempted assassinations. Unlike Star Trek, Star Wars delivered its conflicts with plentiful action. The visual effects that elevated the action, that elevated the plots, were unprecedented. An almost perfect marriage of story and storytelling. The rising action was more action. Admittedly, George Lucas's expository monologue and dialogue were frequently clunky.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Why didn't he write "Some consider the dark side's power unnatural," or "The dark side unlocks many abilities. Some say they are unnatural"? Anyway, the visual splendor before, during, and after the exposition was the best in film history, and the concepts and execution were always good. 5 of 6 plots avoid pretentiousness, oversimplification, convolution, and sluggishness, Episode 1 being the anomaly. To his credit, Lucas utilized literary devices like foreshadowing, allegory, antithesis, theme, symbolism, and his greatest strength, imagery. His innovation captured attention. Viewers never knew what to expect from Lucas. All of us along for the ride. Can you imagine better climaxes? Yavin 4, Cloud City, Endor, Duel of the Fates, Geonosis, and Mustafar. 3 resolutions left cliffhangers, and 2 resolutions concluded trilogies. Only the first film had a complete narrative. Star Wars didn't match Star Trek for complexity, which, unfortunately, condemned the latter as niche. I'll repeat myself. Straightforward was one of Star Wars' appeals. In this category, Star Trek's volume hurt its chances. Its quantity of episodes and films decreased its novelty or originality. I already mentioned a pattern, and its primary platform, television, didn't allow big-screen special effects. Final decision in the case of plot. Star Trek beats Star Wars for exposition and, for want of a better term, maturity. But Star Wars exceeds Star Trek for storytelling, rising action, climax, and resolution. Star Wars takes the category. The last category is longevity. As fans age and quality suffers, it's more difficult to measure. Both IP enjoyed decades of vigorous support, taking in billions of dollars for merchandise. The term franchise applies because licensing and sales were keys to long-term success. Star Trek carried sci-fi through hard times and built lasting relationships with its watchers. Trekkers, Trekkies, or Treksters attended conventions and wrote theses about their entertainment. They loved details and debates. Physicists, engineers, astronauts, many distinguished, accomplished people in science, mathematics, and technology found inspiration there. Fans welcomed cast members, stars to bit players, into the fold. Once you appeared on screen, you were celebrated. Overzealously? Yes, at times. Star Trek has been kinder to actors than Star Wars, but its intensity and enthusiasm and obsession with particulars of its lore exhausted some of its leads. Though it didn't equal Star Wars' mainstream commercial heights, it thrived on the fringe of pop culture, with occasional forays into the limelight, such as The Wrath of Khan and The Best of Both Worlds. To its detriment, the IP developed a reputation for geekiness, intellectualism, and campiness, where it has remained throughout its existence. On the outside, normies' fickleness and misperceptions. On the inside, backers' undying loyalty. Star Wars revitalized and revolutionized the entire filmmaking industry. It captured the public's imagination and discretionary income. Toys, clothes, books, music, home products, merchandise was everywhere. Cover stories, reviews, headlines. Incredible consumption by the standards of any era. As a disco record, its main theme hit #1 on the charts of American Top 40 and Billboard's Hot 100. A journalist wrote, quote, "When you've bathed in your Star Wars bubble bath, put on your Star Wars t-shirt, cleaned your teeth with Star Wars Wonder Paste, shot the cat with your Star Wars pocket ray gun, and rushed out to buy a couple of rolls of Star Wars loo paper, you can sit back and listen to music inspired by Star Wars." Unquote. Accurate. Following the original trilogy, novels, comics, toys, special edition films, and conventions sustained interest. The prequels returned Star Wars to its pop culture throne and ensured its carry forward. Still the most profitable, influential entertainment brand in history. No exaggeration, it changed the world. Star Wars didn't enter the mainstream, it was a tributary of the mainstream. So I asked myself, do the works stand the test of time? Does the IP still have cultural relevance? Do people continue to watch and buy? Is devotion passed down from generation to generation? Remember, I'm not evaluating Star Trek productions in the era of J.J. Abrams and Alex Kurtzman, and I'm not evaluating Star Wars productions in the era of Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy. With its visual storytelling enhanced by spectacular action, Star Wars holds up better than Star Trek and doesn't demand as much viewing time or concentration. Both have cultural relevance, but Star Wars has a broader reach and leaves a deeper impact. People continue to watch the media and buy the merchandise of both IP. Lucrative markets for collecting and reselling exist. However, Star Wars dwarfs Star Trek in merchandise. Devotion to both IP is passed down, though decreasing, but Star Wars has more fans to carry its torch. Star Trek fans are more knowledgeable and faithful in general, but they are a fraction of Star Wars' audience. Despite thousands of Star Wars fans walking away, the scales will never be balanced. Based on the preceding answers, I chose Star Wars over Star Trek for longevity. The Force has been too big for too long. Time to render my final verdict. Star Wars or Star Trek, which is better? I evaluated the two IP in 4 categories: character development, world building, plot, and longevity. Star Trek won character development, a tie in world building. Star Wars won plot and longevity. Overall, Star Wars wins. A few words to both fan bases. Trekkers, be thankful your IP rarely swam in the mainstream. The platform and writing encouraged loyalty, and conventioneers cemented the legacy. In sci-fi, the character development and alien world building were the best. Star Wars fans, your franchise had no peer for almost 40 years. George Lucas revolutionized filmmaking with his imagination. His trilogies were unparalleled for visual storytelling, creative world building, and staying power. His brand dominated media and merchandise. Unfortunately, no one followed in his footsteps. Corporations tightened their grip and, in an effort to copy Star Wars, drove his franchise and many others, including Star Trek, to the brink of irrelevance. What is your perspective? Did I give a fair assessment? Let me know with a comment. Thank you for watching. Check out Galactic Initiative for all things Star Wars.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.